Forza Horizon 5 has a lot of cars, so many the game can't even keep track. Finding the right car for you is like tuning a hypercar to wheelie. It's not impossible, just pretty dang hard. If you need help deciding what to jump your credits into next, or just like to see what goofy cars are in this game, this is episode 1 of Brands for Horizon 5. The oldest car on the list for today is the Lotus Elan Sprints, made in 1971 as a more powerful version of the typical Elan near the end of its production run. The Elan is a remarkably light car, weighing in at only 1,600 pounds, and the 126 horsepower, 1.6-liter four-cylinder engine was more than enough to push this little car to over 120 miles per hour. In Forza Horizon 5, the Elan is an absolute dream to drive. When upgraded to A-Class, it is buttery smooth through the corners while packing enough power to hold its own on the straights. The car costs $57,000 at the auto show, and prices on the auction house drop as low as 6,000 credits. At a price like this, the Elan is a fantastic bang for your buck car, and I highly recommend that everyone take it for a spin. S tier. Compared to the Elan, the Elise GT1 is an enormous step up in power. Its 3.5-liter twin-turbo V8 engine outputs 350 horsepower stock, which propels the full carbon fiber body down the racetrack. Due to regulations for the GT series of racing, one production model was built along with 7 race versions, but reliability issues plagued the car and it was unable to achieve any noteworthy placements. In-game, the GT1 is a nimble and responsive car, excelling in any class from A to X. It primarily performs best on sharp, narrow corners and hill climbs, as its lower-end top speed can often be beaten down in the straights. This expertise in the corners comes at a cost, as the GT1 costs $1.8 million at the auto show, although it can probably be nabbed for around $1 million at the auction house. This unfortunately makes it less of an automatic purchase than the Elan, but it is a great car worthy of an A-tier placement. The Elise 190 got its name from the 1.8-liter i4 engine that outputs 190 horsepower to its tiny 1,470-pound package. This combination of extreme lightness, lacking any creature comforts, and powerful engine means that not only did it corner amazingly, but the engine was almost overkill in the power department. The result was a track lover's dream, and it perfectly embodies the motto of Lotus: simplify, then add lightness. In-game, however, the Elise Sport suffers from an unfortunate problem. While fast and very nimble, its cornering is gutted by all-wheel drive. Unlike the Elan, which can corner just as well as the Elise can, but has the added acceleration and reliability of all-wheel drive, the Elise has to lean either into speed with all-wheel drive or cornering like the GT1 or Elan with rear-wheel drive. At a price of $15,000 from the auction house or $80,000 from the auto show, it is cheap enough to be affordable and fast enough to perform well, but it lacks the buttery smooth feeling of the Elan or the speed of the GT1. Despite its shortcomings, it still deserves its place in low A tier. The Exige S is the Elise's bigger, stronger, and better looking older brother. With a 3.5-liter V6 engine, it has nearly twice the horsepower at 345 at the cost of being nearly 1,000 pounds heavier. This results in a higher top speed at the cost of some of the Elise's cornering ability. As expected, the same all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive trade-off is present in this car too, and because of the bigger numbers of the car, the difference between them is even larger. This, unfortunately, works to the detriment of the car, as most all-wheel drive tunes feel like boats to handle, and most rear-wheel drive tunes are too powerful and slide too easily to be particularly competitive. The Exige costs nearly the exact same as the Elise and is probably more suited to goofing around in free roam than hitting the track, landing it in B tier. It's a shame it's the better looking one. 7 years ago, the Lotus 311 was the fastest Lotus ever built. It weighs in at only 2,100 pounds, making it very light for the massive 410 horsepower 3.5-liter supercharged V6 in the rear. It had a production run of only 311 vehicles, which is fitting, and surprisingly it does come with a road legal version, despite the fact that it has no doors, windshield, or roof. So far, I have enjoyed every Lotus I have driven quite a bit, but that ends with the 311. I don't like the sound of the car much, I like the handling of it even less, and it is so ugly it can make Hello Kitty cry. The biggest benefit of this car is that it is very cheap for how fast it can go, making it rather good for new players to complete speed traps and zones. One can be picked up from the auction house for around 18,000 credits, or 10 times that from the auto show. However, most new players will get a better car from a wheel spin at some point, so this car will quickly and rightfully be abandoned. D tier. The Avaya is the first ever electric car produced by Lotus, and true to form for the brand, it is substantially lighter than the typical electric super or hyper car. It is stated to produce nearly 2,000 horsepower from its 4 electric motors and go 250 miles on a single charge. In-game, the car is absolutely terrifying to drive. With incredible acceleration and a top speed of over 275 miles per hour, this car is one of the fastest drag cars in the game. It is also an absolute behemoth when it comes to PR stunts, smashing any and every on-road speed trap, speed zone, or danger zone. The PR expertise doesn't come cheap though, as the car costs a hefty 2.5 million credits or 1.7 million from the auction house, which is a pretty hefty hit to most people's purse. But I would say it is pretty well worth the cost, as while it is pretty garbage at racing due to poor handling, the exhilaration of driving it and the high scores you can achieve with it balance it out and land it a spot in A tier. Heyo, thanks a lot for watching the video. I have a few quick requests of you guys before you click off. Please leave some suggestions for tier names in the comments, as I couldn't think of anything funny while making this video, and give me a suggestion for the brand I should make a video about next. Best tier names will be pins. Also, all the tunes I made for each of these cars will have their share codes in the description in case you guys want to try them out. Adios!